something brilliant comes up, I want to make sure I have it for the presidential libraries or
Great.
So tell me a little bit about what your goal is, where you're going, what you want, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'll be taking
So,
notes. If you're like, why isn't he looking at me? It's not.
no, that's good. That's good. So I've been on a journey the last several years of just finding where my niche is, finding where I can make the most potential impact. And John Maxwell Team has been part of that journey, and that's where I found out about you a little bit. So I think that I've discovered in the last year or two that one of my mentors, he says, out of your mess comes your message. And I have cerebral palsy. And I realized that once I came to grips with that and really own that in a deeper way, instead of, I've actually, part of my writing has been like, it used to be like 800-pound elephant in the room that I used to try to ignore. But now I realize that that's really where my authority and where my power is, if I choose to embrace that. And so I've just been, and I think, being on this John Maxwell Team journey and broader than that, I realized that when I started down this road, this entrepreneurial road, 4+ years ago, I'd never been down the road before, so I believe, like a lot of other people, that a lot of people
I'm sorry. This is a lap of agreement, not a
yeah. So everybody needs to have what I know, and everybody needs to benefit from my experiences. But then I think the picture that comes to my mind is in hitting everybody with the fire hose, I hit people with droplets. And so it's really been in the last year or two that I've realized that, again, that ownership and that authority comes from the struggles that I've overcome and indeed overcoming with my disability. And that's really who I've been called to help is families, and particularly youth affected by disabilities. And so
I want to I'm going to sort of like grab control for a minute.
Yeah, please.
So a couple things. One, my daughter has cerebral palsy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, hers was non-accidental head trauma post-birth. So hers manifests with right side paralysis, and then speech and language and development. She also had oxygen. We adopted her through this, and so she had a lot of complications, but they just sort of label it all as cerebral palsy. Mm-hmm. As you probably know, it's like, oh, that's just your cerebral palsy. And you're like, no, I thought it was the burritos from last night. Like, does everything come under this CP title that connects to my brain? So when you say, so a couple things I'm going to sort of give you like this huge scope. Okay, just to understand why I'm where I'm at in my space.
Okay.
So yes, I am a John Maxwell Team member. I joined 6 years ago. I'd have somewhere up there as my welcome certificate.
I don't know if I ever got one of those. Anyway.
I'll send you one.
Okay.
One of them, not being negative, but it will sound negative. Now, one of the mistakes that the John Maxwell Team does is it sort of paints that you can create a business off 15 laws of growth. I completely agree if it's 15 laws of growth in managing your CP, 15 laws of growth to be a better husband, 15 laws of growth as it relates to team. You always have to take the content that John created and then bring it inside your thing, so you're in the front and John is in the back.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with people going broke, putting John in the front. So I have total respect for John and the entire team and staff. From a business standpoint, you're right. You need your own platform. You need your own voice of authority. And you need to be in a position some point, sometime that says, you know, what was interesting is when I read this, it didn't hit me until I applied it to my life in this way. Or
Yeah.
here's my life lesson, and here's an authority, John Maxwell, echoing it.
Right. Right.
When you talk about owning my niche and my disability and my CP, that's still really big.
Right.
Is it? And so another piece of what I do, it's business branding or business story creation, where your business, and so if you look at any Googling, it's discover, grow, master, discover, grow, tell. You're going to go through the discover part, you're going to grow that message, and then you're going to master it as a business vehicle, or you're going to tell it as a book. You said you've sort of discovered that your authority is what? 10 words or less.
My sweet spot right now is helping families and youth affected by disabilities. Because I would say
Okay,
just youth
wait,
or just
and I'm gonna really
sorry.
push as a coach.
No, it's good. It's
If
good.
you don't want it, you just have to like hit disconnect, and I'll
Okay.
the internet.
No, I appreciate this.
Families and youth affected with the E, because you said affected,
Hmm.
with disabilities. All disabilities?
At this point, yes, but I have a feeling that needs to be narrower.
Affected financially, emotionally, spiritually, what?
Um, yeah, this is good because I haven't had anybody push me. So
Welcome
no,
to the
that's good.
jungle.
No, I appreciate it. I think so. The journey that we can come back to this question, but just to give you a little context of the journey that I've been on is last year. So I kind of again learned how to mix John's materials with my own, and I came up with this what's called the Dreaming Made Simple Starter Guide. So the
I'm
six
sorry,
essential.
one more time. I missed
It's
it.
called the Dreaming Made Simple Starter Guide.
Okay, I saw things like that. So here's, and again, this is going to be when you talk about marketing,
Mm-hmm.
dreaming made simple. This is the difference between, so, and this is not a political statement, like
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden, build back better because, when, how, what, like his campaign slogan, build back better. You're still standing on the diving board wondering what to do.
Yeah.
Make America great again. Okay, we got to make America what? Great, win now. Again. Dream, was it Dream Made Simple Guide?
Yeah, the Dreaming
Does
Made
that mean I'm
Simple
going to
Starter
help,
Guide.
you're going to help me sleep better?
So that's where I would have to, have the subtitle in there.
But you, and again, as a writer, speaker, niche builder,
Mm-hmm.
in some cases, you don't have the luxury of a subtitle.
Okay.
Just like how much can fit on the hat. So even shifting, and I haven't read the material, but like living a dream simply, what's in it for me? I'm going to show you how to live a dream. How simple.
So the essence behind what I'm trying to go for with the brand is say, hey, what I say to people all the time is like, people say, oh, my dreams are this, that, and the other, and then they never do anything about it. So I'm here to say, hey, let's take steps toward that meaningful goal that you have. And I like simplifying people's dreaming and doing process.
Okay, that's a good one. Simplifying the dream to reality process.
Yeah.
So again, I use the analogy of a mountain climber. What am I going to do? I'm going to show you how to get from the dream to the reality through a series of base camps, through a series of steps. Now I'm like, oh, so, and then from the marketing, branding, storylining message is, if you have a dream, which is the guy sitting on the couch, come to the foothill where all the dream gatherers are meeting. And if you sign up with me, your guide, I'm going to take you up this mountain, through these passes, through these valleys, through over these cliffs and hangs, so that you can arrive at a reality of your choice. But I'm going to show you how to do it the simple way versus the complicated, overdone, non-attached way.
Right.
So now when I hear you, and here's where we're starting to, and I say this not, I see this so much. It's what brought me into what I do. So Skinny Brown Dog Media is the media and publishing side. I'm trying to grab something. If I drop it on the floor, it'll do. So this, and there's two more that I haven't gotten here. These are the manuscripts that I've worked on for writers who said, I really think I should write my story.
Right.
And then I would look at their brand and I'm like, how are these two things even, like, how is CP linked to my mountain journey?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you're out there selling this dream made simple guide, and then your book's going to come out and it's going to be about your journey of CP. And I'm going to be like, so did I misread him? I thought he was interested in me and now he's chasing her. And how does CP, or cerebral palsy, if that's your authority, fit over this? I'm the guy that teaches you how to simplify the dreams to reality.
Well, I think that, people with disabilities in particular tend to internalize, and just because they know the obstacles that they're facing, that it's just like, we tend to shut down and say, hey, it's a scary enough reality, in my little apartment, in my little house. And so why in the world would I want to go out there and dream and do?
Okay. Does that only apply to people with CP?
No,
Does
absolutely
it
not.
only apply to people with disabilities?
No.
Did it apply to you with your disability and outside of your disability?
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
So if I would look at you,
Mm-hmm.
would it be easy for me to identify you as somebody with cerebral palsy? Because right now you're playing, you're like passive.
Yeah, probably not. I think there's a lot of people that might say, "Oh, you just hurt your leg or something."
Okay. Whereas if you look at like my daughter, her speech, like I don't understand half the crap she says. Her cadence, like you can, it's clear. She wears an AFO, all of that.
Right.
Not to discount your disability, but what I need to know from your writer standpoint is the way I would direct it might be, though it's not obvious to others,
Right.
the fact that every time I wrote down my name, CP somehow seemed to fit into it, caused me to have this belief system.
That's good.
And we all have internal disabilities.
Right. Right, and that's a lot about that's a lot of the message that I've been giving the last year or two in particular is that I say I define a disability as anything that would seek to limit you from your fullest potential.
And again, does a disability limit you?
Well, it all depends on your point of view.
And so you're trying, and again, this is where we talk about building the business that matches the message that moves the audience.
Yep.
Though you may think your disability, though you may feel your disability, though others may have told you your disability is limiting you, have you pushed past that limit?
Right.
Let me explain what I mean. You can't, in the same breath, say your disability is limiting you, but I want to tell you how to dream big. It's like, wait a minute, you just told me I can't swim, and now you're going to throw me in the ocean. Like,
Yeah.
I have no trust in you.
Right, and I understand. So that's where I need to clear this up. But like the story that I give, that kind of illustrates what I'm trying to get at with people, and what I'm trying to get them to understand is that, I grew up loving sports and grew up in Michael Jordan's prime. And so I love basketball, but I knew because of cerebral palsy, I couldn't play. So my mantra had to become, and my MO had to become find a way. And so I found a way to be around the game of basketball that I love through announcing and through journalism. And that's what I want to inspire people to do, that no matter the circumstances that you're facing, you can find a way to do what you want to do.
And so when I look at this, and this is kind of what I see happen. Oh, here's the other two. I knew there were two missing. I only read like 500 pages a day, it feels like.
Wow.
So what I do primarily is, and it's come because I literally had coaching clients I was building a business for, and then they would go, oh, I wrote a book, I want to send it to you. And I was like, that didn't come up during a coaching call? No, you were coaching me on business. This was something I just wanted to do. I was like, okay, like, I don't need to know about your love life, but if there was something going on, maybe. And they would send me the book, and the book would often have misspellings, bad quotes, unformed structure. But they would be like passing out a book as a business card. And then I would like, these two met, like, I don't even know these. Like, I know this person and I know this person, but I don't know this bigger person.
Mm-hmm.
And this book added to your business could have multiplied your business, or vice versa.
Right.
So what ended up happening was, it would almost be the opposite. Like, somebody would bring me a book, and halfway through they're like, I really want to become a speaker, a coach, an inspirer. I want to turn this into workshops. I want to impact the world through my book, but first I want to get my book done. And I would be like, we can't think of it as, as soon as the cake is baked, we're going to go to the store and buy the frosting. We need to like pull the pieces as we're going, but yet not define what the whole business looks like.
Right.
But understand the message. So, so up my subject matter, this one, My Road to Motherhood, a story of infertility and women's infertility related issues. Mm-hmm. Oh, and a book of faith. There's a book of faith in the middle of it. Now we've already created what the podcast's going to look like, how it's going to overlap to the book, how the keynotes, what the workshop, who's your audience, what she doesn't talk about, what she does talk about, how she's going to invest her family in different pieces of it. And we just finished the second round edit. So my editing process is often, I'll take the book and I think you said you had like 21,000,
Yeah,
25,000 words, something.
Yeah.
So about 140 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually laid a book out for a paperback, so
Okay. And the formatting piece is like the very last chapter of the
right.
process. So I'll often read through the story by myself, like you handed it to me as if I was a reader.
Right.
Just so you know that, oh, let me grab this one. That's what it can look like during my reading. I do it all by hand.
I'd rather be disappointed or offended or any of those other scenarios now before I actually like put it out there and then got cricket.
Well, a big part of that, and I tell every writer, and I like almost have to tell them it's not about your writing, it's about building the story in a way that I and the reader and anybody that stumbles upon it doesn't have to ask you questions except they want to know more. And
Yeah,
so
and
like
I
when
think I've done that. I mean, I hesitate to say this, but my the bulk of my experience has been in writing. So I feel a lot more comfortable in my writing than in my business and brand building.
so where I would say is the branding would be, then I would look at it and go, okay, if we took the Dream Made Simple guide, you said it was
Uh-huh.
5 steps,
6.
6. If you divided those up, thinking again as a mountain and base camp to summit, is number 6 summit?
No, so um, basically the way I pitch it, and I understand maybe I need to, rethink it, but basically the way I think it is I start from identity and then, we deal in there with dealing with hope and I can send you, I mean, it's only like 20 to 30 pages. So just so that you would get an
Okay.
idea.
So
If we would
here's the thing and so what I would do, or I'll give you a recommendation and then you can decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
How's that? I'm not going to tell you. My son's in the other room. I don't have to. What I would try and decide is, because we bounced across, what was it? Family and youth with disabilities, the effects of disability, building a dream and living it simply, dreaming my dream, step towards that, simplifying the dream and reality process. We've gone over things like internalized obstacles versus disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
If we're at the wake to your funeral,
Right.
and everybody's standing around, it's like, man, what I love about Sam is the one thing he taught me in life was.
So you're asking me?
Mhm.
So to not give in or give up because of obstacles or limitations.
To not give up or give in because of limitations.
Yeah.
I give that on the branding piece, almost, I'm going to give you like a C plus, because we put the emphasis on limitations,
Mm-hmm.
and limitations is like, really, do you want to drive to the dead end street? Like, not to give up because of limitations versus we all have limitations and we can achieve what we want. So don't give up. Like,
Right.
I would have to manicure how that all pieced.
So yeah, it's the same idea. It's the same message. It's just how it's presented.
Right.
So.
And that's where the book will be critical, is making sure that the language used in the book
Right.
becomes the language that you use in your podcast, that becomes the language you use in your elevator speech, that becomes. So when somebody says, what do you do? To me, I say, well, I help people discover, grow, and master their story in business and life.
Right. Okay.
And they're like, but how? I said, oh, how do I do that? That's a second level question.
Yeah.
What, then they get to ask the how, what, when, where, who kind of questions. But what do? I help people discover, grow, and master their story
Mm-hmm.
in business and in life. And then I often will add something like, and I think everybody has such a unique story, I'm going to be busy forever.
Right.
And see, even you gave me that natural, like, yeah, that feels good to know that.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that for sure.
Where, going back to this one, his daughter survived post-delivery, I think it's 47 days. We had a conversation very similar to this. I want to help families that are dealing with loss. I want to help people with grief. I want to have people understand hope and faith. Like, it was all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the central message that the book is being rewritten and built around, I want to help men heal from loss.
That's
Specifically, I want, and then he's like, and how? Because I suffered a huge loss, the loss of my daughter in a NICU.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to explain my healing process and the importance of it, so other men will begin their healing journey. And I'm going to have healing workshops. I'm going to have support groups. I'm going to talk about healing process. I'm going to talk about the hazards of being stuck in your healing, of not accepting your healing, how men heal differently than women, how the healing process isn't linear, but it's secular, whatever that word is. And he's like, I'm like, is that enough to keep you busy for a while? He's like, I could do that the rest of my life. And his big vision is to be able to have a men's support group that's within contact of every hospital. So if a father is in one of those moments where he may be losing his infant or his newborn baby, there's a father that can come and sit with him.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And then that becomes part of his foundation and his nonprofit.
Yeah.
When he wrote the book, it was, I just want to talk about healing and faith. I was like, that's good, but how's it going to transform the world? It's so big, nobody can get it in their shopping cart.
Right. Right.
I hear your message. It's a tough one. I probably still have to work into it. And I see internal disabilities. I actually did a talk on it once about the undiagnosed disabilities holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my daughter's case, when we were meeting with the adoption team, they said she'll never walk, she'll never eat, she'll never be able to swallow, she'll never interact with people. She's basically going to be in a car seat the rest, like, you know. This morning on the way to dropping her off at school, she argued that she should be allowed to sit in the front seat because she's the only one in the car and she wants to play the music, not the news, because, and like, so she walked to the car. She's interacting, she's fighting, she's standing her own.
Wow.
She never got to read the disability list.
Yeah.
So she just pushed on through all of the challenges without reading the list. And so you could almost create this whole speech about, are you focused on the report versus the opportunity?
Yeah.
When I was little and I was born, my parents were told all the things I wouldn't be able to do. And so they focused on the report. I was a 3-year-old. I focused on the ball and my brother and trying to take it away from them.
Right.
And that can be a message that goes to corporate. Like, is your company stuck on the annual report or on the opportunities in front of them?
Right.
And COVID has taught us more than anything. Man, there are companies crushing the industry right now because they could adapt. I can see that same message for men, for youth, especially families in crisis. Are you focusing on the written report, or are you focusing on the opportunities? And that's where I'm trying to figure out the balance between dreams and realities, and disability as an opportunity. I don't want to place the emphasis on the word disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate when people go, she's differently abled. I'm like, can we just agree that she's clumsy because of a brain injury and move on? Like, let's quit trying to call. And there's a whole nother thing for you. It's like people struggled with calling it disability, differently abled, specially abled, uniquely. It's like, if I wish they would just told me I was clumsy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have a great position.
Thanks.
And I think the cool thing about yours is, when I say you could pass, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it would be easier for somebody that came out, on a wheelchair with all kinds of physicals to talk about disabilities, but you take it to that next TED Talk level
Right.
of like, you can't see it, but I live with this little gremlin in my head all the time, reminding me of my disabilities.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I think, the things that appeal to, like, I've done work with like the local Easter Seals. I don't know. I assume you're probably familiar with Easter Seals, and then some disability organizations in my community. And the things that obviously get the kids, and I think the people making the buying decisions are that, I've worked for Major League Baseball. I'm married and I have a house. Those are things that
I'm just hoping my daughter goes away for the weekend.
Right. And that's where there's all levels of the spectrum. But I think it's interesting because I've found the most resonance with high functioning autism at this point, because it's like they're almost there, but there's
Yeah.
obviously a barrier.
And on a personal, that's what frustrates me about the label of CP, because
Yeah.
as you said, it's like autism, the spectrum can be so diverse. And she can't, when I say she can't read, she can't process language in the reading format, but yet she has a really good sense of sarcasm,
I believe that.
which is a different language skill. And so,
Totally. I mean, it shows a different level of intelligence. Like,
mhm.
it takes a special intelligence to have that.
And that's where I get frustrated sometimes. And I think, yeah, it's really cool because you can talk about how we have spectrums of disability in the CP community.
Right.
And how those of you who maybe don't get to wear the label of CP live in your own spectrum of disability or own spectrum of labeled abilities. I would start using the term labeled abilities. And you sometimes believe you have an ability to, and another labeled ability that you can't. And those are on spectrums. And I'm here to show you, first off, you're the person that created the spectrum. So you're the person to step out of it. And I'm going to start to show you how to break down your attachment to that spectrum of your ability and create a new one. Because there are many in my community, the CP community, that were told they couldn't live independently, that they wouldn't be able to marry, that they couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that.
Thanks.
So when you look at your book, are you looking to expand the book or figure out how to put the book into the bigger business brand story?
Could you restate that question?
So are you looking to like, I want my book written and then I'm going to come back and figure out how I'm going to use, like, is the book the platform or is the book part of the platform?
I think I I'm not sure exactly which way to answer that, but I think basically the book. Ideally, I'd love to be. I was just writing somebody the other day. Ideally, I'd love to be a New York Times bestseller, and I think someday I could be. But I think at this point, the book's probably more of a lead magnet. Something I pass out to get traction and in the door, or something I present after speeches and say, hey, like if you like this speech, there's a whole lot more in this book.
I don't know if you've seen Lewis Howes. This
Oh,
was
sure.
his lead magnet.
Yeah.
Really
I haven't seen
sad.
that one actually.
Oh my God. It's really sad because he's a huge celebrity on his own. I mean, he's famous as a
Right.
football player and everything else. This would be appropriate for somebody that was trying to create fame or create notoriety, but not for somebody of his level.
Is that recent or was that one of his first publications?
I think this is like his very first thing. This was his business launching, I think.
Okay.
This is somebody who, for all practical purpose, is an unknown.
Mm-hmm.
But in it, he talks about his business building philosophy and how, as a coach, he's had to develop. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I get it. You're introducing me to you as a coach through this book that you're giving away.
Right.
Total respect.
Which is probably more realistic for the path that I'm kind of going down.
Somewhere I have a really bad version of one too, but I can't. It must be over on that side. So I want to create a. So what I hear you saying is I want to create. This is me staring off into space, thinking. I want to create a platform that. I want to create a platform that empowers people to move from disabled to abled to live their dreams.
Yeah.
And my book is an introduction to that process.
Yeah.
My coaching, speaking workshops are going to continually reinforced. You can move out of your disability and into your abilities following these 6 steps.
Right.
Okay.
Does that, I mean, part of me, again, it's like, part of me is like, should I put everything into
Don't
being,
fear the small. Do not fear the small.
okay.
I
That's
mean,
right.
like, how many pitchers go out and play left field?
Yeah. Right.
Well, let me rephrase that. How many well-paid all-star national champion pitchers go out and play left field during the 3rd inning?
Yeah. Maybe Babe Ruth, but I think was he right field or left field? But anyway.
Yeah. So you can stay in the minor leagues and play all the positions, hoping somebody will notice you and then give you a job.
Right.
Or you can stand prominently on the pitcher's mound. And though maybe for your first season, you're going to get a lot of hits against you, eventually people are going to be like, don't even call him if you want to talk about women's pregnancy issues.
Right.
But if you got a team that's stuck in their disabilities and you need somebody to kick their ass into their abilities, I know the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I want. Cause I think, I don't know if it was Don Miller or somebody I heard say that people, when they meet you, file you under the problem that you solve. And that's what I want to be is, like, hey, like this is the guy for this. Right.
I'm actually finishing up my Story Brand certification.
Oh, so does that mean you're going to be a coach or whatnot?
Probably.
Cool.
Dr. JJ and I are like this.
Nice.
But it's funny because I have been doing a lot of what he teaches, and somebody's like, you remind me of this guy. And I'm like, who? And they dug around, they found Don Miller, and they're like, this is who you remind me of. And I listened to him, I'm like, oh my God, he does the same thing I do. Now, he does it on a little larger platform. So through a series of conversations and being part of their university, I was like, I don't know why I need to be one of your certified coaches, but I'm taking so much of your training anyhow. Why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's where, when I talked about that mountain journey thing, that's the guide piece that he talks
Right,
about.
right. Yeah. And um, yeah, I mean, I've come so far in my journey that now it's like that's making sense to me, but it's still like in its embryonic form for me, I think. And
And
like it,
yeah, I get it. And it's easier to observe. It's easier for me to find
right,
yours than for you to find it.
right, right.
Because it's like, really, that's what I look like to the world?
Yeah,
That's it?
yeah,
And a lot of people are scared to go really small because, especially when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, it's like, shit, I'll wax floors and sell cookies.
yeah.
I just don't want to end up homeless. But then you attract all of the wrong people, or you're really good at selling $49.99 workshops all day,
Yeah,
but you never get to break through to the high-end offers. So a lot of my clients actually start at the high-end offer
yeah.
and then provide ways for people to come in on the smaller pieces.
Well, I will say I sold very little of anything, and then the disability organization in town that I've done the most work for. The first thing we met for about a half an hour, and I forget how we came up with the figure that, but they paid me $3,000. So I was like, that's pretty good for my first real paid client.
What is the message they hired you to do?
So they actually, and that's where it worked out well, is they had me take their students through the starter guide, the 6 essential lessons to pursuing your dreams and goals.
How long did it take you to go through that?
It was so I did an hour class over 6 weeks, and then I repeated that 3 times for an additional fee.
So if you were, so you have six, I'll have to look at it, but if you had 6 guides or 6 guideposts,
Mm-hmm.
is it process, or is it just like, does one make you have to do two, or could you do two without number one?
No, you could do 2 without number 1, but I think like my intent in producing that starter guide was just like, hey, if you don't have time to like process through a whole 200-page book, like you can read this in an hour if you want, or you can take a whole lot longer and you can still, benefit from it. And so the book that I'm writing that you estimated is up to about 140 pages or so, like goes a whole lot deeper, as you would imagine.
Yeah, and so you're doing really well. Congratulations. You have your own product.
Yeah,
You have a 6-week workshop. You have a 6-day challenge.
yeah,
You have a 6-month engage. Like, the thing is, you want to build it in a way that I have to meet you at base camp
right,
and then go up. Now, there are some people that will hire somebody else to take them to the 3rd level because you're the expert at 3rd through 6th.
right,
And that's okay. And there may be a point where you only offer the digital learning for lessons 1 through 3. But if you want to get the final high, like over the altitude limit,
right.
that can only be done on our weekend seminar.
Yeah, yeah. Which could be a virtual thing, just like Tony Robbins is.
Yeah, but again, from a business building, you now have this, okay, we're going to do the 7-day challenge, which is the first step broken down to 7 challenges or
Right.
7 pieces. And now if you really thought that was great, you can now come to our virtual 7-weekend summit.
Yeah.
And so again, it's an onion, but you can do it a whole bunch of ways.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, it'd be a fun project for me.
All right. So you've shared a lot of things with me, like where do I go? Where do I go from here? And
What I'm gonna recommend, so everybody always asks, what's the cost? What's the investment?
right.
But when I say I don't know right now for you, and I say that with respect, because I don't know if we're working more towards the writing piece first or the overall packaging piece and the writing comes in. So
Yeah.
for instance, when I'm working starting with a book, we meet weekly for about an hour. We go over my suggested edits, typically 30 to 50 pages. I post those edits. You go back and rewrite your manuscript. Then when we get all the way to the end, you resubmit your manuscript. I go to a cave in the mountains and I go through it again and again and again. And then we end up with a book.
Yeah.
I invest about 3 to 5 hours a week in each author because of all of that rereading and rewriting. That's a completely different process than you're like, help me figure out my business message, my story brand thing.
Yeah.
And also, can we work on the book? But I'm not as pace oriented on that as I am trying to create a cohesive look and
Right.
message. And
Right.
I think Don Miller calls it the controlling narrative for my business. So I would tell you, like I tell everybody, you just had too much Eric for most people to digest. Um, take a moment, like journal, like, okay, wow, these are things that came up I didn't think about, things I
Yeah.
need to figure out. And then what do I want to do next? And where do I want to be at the end of 90 days? I try and not put people into a commitment much longer than 6 months, just because momentum.
Right.
Got to keep you in momentum, no matter if you're writing the book or if you're launching your first high-end product. If you want to create your first high-end offer and the book becomes part of the giveaway, the bonus, the curriculum, that's a different process.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see you easily having a 6 month, that may be a little long, but maybe a 3 month long group engagement around it where participants are paying $10,000 to be a part of,
Yeah.
and 3 to 5 people
I
in
just
the
have to
group.
develop my clarity to get to that point.
Well, and that's where if you watch really good high-end offers,
Mm-hmm.
you only expect, like, you're like, I really wish I could ask a question about this, but clearly this isn't the place, and I paid too much to be in here for this. I'm
Right.
not going to overlap the message.
Right.
And that's what makes a high-end offer work, is that you're driving them at such a hard, it's like when you take one of those lose 30 pounds in 5 minutes kind of challenges. You're the coach, the person is driving at such a high rate of
Yeah.
clarity that you don't want to get out of it.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to download this, send it to you, because I don't know if you have access to it directly. And then really give like an estimate for where I think we're going. If you went with the business branding building piece and storyboard, it would still be weekly coaching calls, typically around 45 minutes to an hour, with a lot of back end homework
Yeah.
that we would review in creating your avatar, creating your dreams, wants, needs list, starting to develop some central core copy and language around that business.
Yeah.
You'd probably be submitting a couple blogs and writing samples, not so much for the writing, but for making sure you're staying on message,
Yeah.
as well as reviewing all of your other social media and promotions to make sure we funnel that message down.
Yeah.
Versus, let me look at the book, let's edit the book, let's pull out the chunks of the book,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's start back ending those into your business model.
Yeah.
Would be the two directions. Too much Eric for one day?
Maybe. I'll definitely play it through and watch it. I think that, like I said, I mean, I'd love to be a New York Times bestseller. I think that I can be someday, but I think right now it does seem like that's more of a, like you said, an introduction. And I think when you write a book, there's a certain level of credibility that increases as well. It's like, this person's written a book.
Yeah. All my bad books are on that side of the room for some reason today. So I want to caution you avoid 30-day to publishing kind of offers that you'll see in self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
I have probably, well, I have one. I felt so bad. Somebody sent it to me as a gift and wanted me to write a review on it.
Yeah.
In the front of the book, I think it's within the first 5 pages, it says, as it says in, I'm trying to remember, I'm probably going to get it backwards. As it says in James Allen's book, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh dear.
And then he quotes, I'm like, you're trying to appeal to me as a thought leader and you misquoted the author and the title. Like, you go like,
yeah.
And I was like, I'm not even going to read the next page. I've lost all immediate authority for you. I kept reading it just out of curiosity to see if it got any worse, and it did.
Right.
I called him, I said, I really can't do anything for you. I can't, I'm sorry. And he was like, what? And I'm like, do you want my honest? And I pointed out, he's like, but I hired somebody. I'm like, you hired them to get it up on Amazon.
Right.
You didn't hire them to read each line and each word and tell you how to make it stick in somebody's heart long enough that they got to get on the phone the next morning and hire you to come in and do a $5,000 speaking gig. And that's the books that I love to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's so nice to know that everybody has done that in this file. Whew. It's a lot of responsibility. So no, the book isn't going to be perceived as just a giveaway. It's the most critical piece because it can be passed around behind your back, both positively and negatively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So I guess I'll just chew on this and then.
I don't mean to leave you unresolved, but I want to know what you want to do next versus trying to slide you into. I don't want to slide you into something that doesn't fit just because I could do that.
So kind of you would say the ball's in my court to kind of watch this again and kind of mull over it
and yeah, you're a coach. What do I want to look like in 90 days? Do I want to have a clear business message or do I want to have my book finished and prepared to relaunch my business from the book? Or do I want to relaunch my business and be working on the book simultaneously?
Okay.
Starting with the book it's a different twist.
Okay. I'll give that some thought.
Perfect. And I'll be back I'll send all this out probably in the next hour or so.
Okay, great.
And then you've got my link. I'll include it just to do a quick follow-up and tell me which you want to go to.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
I hope
Eric.
this helped.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. And I appreciate the candid feedback. I really do. And so now I'll just be all that more intentional.
Be excited, not scared.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.